Senator Hunt, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, Nebraskans. I'm just going to tap my light again because I have some thoughts to share on this bill that I didn't get the opportunity to speak on last week. But this morning, I wanted to speak about something that has been on my heart a little bit, especially in the context of other bills that we have before us today and scheduled for the rest of the session. The death of the Pope, the death of Pope Francis. I was raised in a Catholic home with Catholic traditions, and while I myself am not a person of faith, I have a deep understanding of Catholic tradition and teachings, and I've also been very vocal and firm in my criticisms of the Catholic Church and of institutional organized religion in general, especially in how these institutions have failed the people that they claim to serve. But even as a non-believer, I was really inspired and encouraged by the example that Pope Francis tried to set for all people around the world, especially Catholics and people of faith. He chose the name Francis after St. Francis of Assisi, and I heard on the radio today, I didn't know this, that he was the first pope to ever choose that name, which kind of surprises me because in Catholicism, St. Francis is such a major saint. He's known for his simplicity, his love for the poor, his care for animals and creation and nature. And I think that that choice of him choosing that name was one of the first signals that his papacy was going to be different, less about hierarchy, less about judgment, more about service. In fact, early in his tenure, he made headlines with this quote that he said when he was asked by an interviewer about LGBTQ people and about gay men wanting to join the clergy, and he said, "Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge?" And I feel like that single phrase marked a really profound cultural shift in the Catholic Church. Of course, official doctrine didn't change, but I think that the tone of the Church under his leadership shifted more toward openness, toward mercy, and inclusion. And in the years that followed, Pope Francis supported civil unions for same-sex couples, and throughout his whole papacy, he affirmed that LGBTQ+ people deserve love, dignity, and a place within their communities and their families that is safe and accepting. In 2015, he released Laudato Si', an encyclical about caring for our planet. It was a call to action on climate change, linking environmental destruction with global inequality, and urging people of faith to see care for the earth as a moral duty. When I started writing kind of my thoughts about Pope Francis, I thought about his quote that actually stuck with me most, and I think about it often. I thought about it often, for years before he died. And he talks about hell being empty. And, all of us have thought, go to hell, stuff like that. And when he said that, it actually kind of made me think differently about the idea of mercy and the idea of forgiveness. And what the quote was, is he was asked by an interviewer how he thinks hell is. The interviewer said, "How do you imagine hell?" And the Pope gave a short response, and what he said was, what I'm going to say is not a dogma of faith, but it's my own personal view. He said, "I like to think of hell as empty. I hope it is." And that view reflects a long history of Catholic mysticism and theology that love is more powerful than judgment, and that God's greatest desire is not to punish us, but to save us. In the final years of his life, Pope Francis was outspoken and unwavering in his condemnation of violence, war, and human suffering all over the world. He condemned genocides in Gaza, in Sudan. Maybe you've seen in the news on Saturday night, nearly every night, he does a FaceTime with the Catholic Church in Gaza, and he did that on Saturday night. He pleaded for peace in Ukraine, in Ethiopia, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and his whole time of service, he refused to look away from the human cost of war. And even in frailty, his voice was strong for these people who were facing decimation and war. And I think that that kind of moral clarity is really important coming from world leaders, because that's not something that we see often enough. He made a genuine effort to lead with empathy, to walk with the vulnerable, and to hold the church to a
Time,
higher
Senator.
moral standard. May he rest in peace. Thank you, Mr. President.